Okay, so the first and main point that serves as a basis for this theory is that Charles Choi and James Lee are never active or awake at the same time. Now, we have not seen them two together at the same time in story. When one is talking, when one of them is talking, whether it is on the phone or in person, the other is always silent with his eyes closed. Okay, so that would already imply, just off rip, that, Charles Choi has the same power as Daniel, except at a way higher frequency, at a way higher level. So he can just switch up, awake, sleep, awake, sleep. He can just automatically control everything, which, I mean, it makes sense considering how what he's accomplished. Even getting rid of Gary Young Kim and all of that. To be able to do that, you need to be playing two sides. And even if you look at him, when he was talking to Gun and Goo, telling them, "Oh, I'm on your side." That could be his way of being an informant for himself by having two bodies. So I like the basis so far. Okay, so in chapter 109, Charles Choi appears to resolve a dispute with a company of which he's a shareholder. The chapter begins with an argument between a furious CEO and Charles Choi. The content of the dialogue isn't important, but James Lee soon appears in order to bring his support to Charles Choi. However, as soon as James Lee comes into play, Charles Choi no longer utters a single word. He falls completely silent, his eyes are closed, and he's shown leaning on his cane. But the problem with this right here, and I'm just gonna go through it as it goes, just so we can kind of have, instead of just me reading it to you. The problem with this though is that would imply that somebody was driving DG there, right? And as soon as DG, Scar got there, he switched. It just seems very convoluted. I'm not gonna lie, because he'd have to like time the switch perfectly so that he doesn't like stop mid conversation and da 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 da. Unless the way Daniel's body has its own autonomy, he can kind of like give it that minuscule autonomy there. But that seems okay. We're gonna see. I don't know about this evidence right here. James Lee then exchanges a few words with Daniel and leaves without wasting time. It's only after he's gone that Charles Choi opens his eyes. What is interesting here is that PTJ, while writing about James Lee leaving, is focusing the panel on Charles Choi. James Lee is gone, Charles Choi is awake, and we're left with a panel full of meaning. A close-up on Charles Choi's face, a shadow cast on it, and an ellipsis inside a speech bubble. Obvious foreshadowing. I mean, I can see that happening. It just seemed a little bit convoluted, but I can see it happening, right? He's control or master of the other body so well that, but then again, the DG would have to leave, get into the car, and then Charles Choi would have to open his eyes, because then DG would have to go back to sleep. And then when they drive DG to his arrival, is somebody supposed to wake him up? I suppose somebody has to wake him up. But we've seen DG do a lot of things by himself. So it's listen, let's keep going. He might, right now he doesn't really fully have me convinced. I think the idea of it is great, but I don't think the proof is in the pudding right now. Something similar happens 2 chapters prior. In chapter 107, Gunn calls Charles Choi. The latter responds, and while Gunn and Charles are speaking on the phone, there's a focus on James Lee seemingly asleep. Okay, this might be adding up here, because what's up with the close-ups? There's a focus on James Lee seemingly asleep. Crystal even tries to speak to him, but he cannot answer. Geez, you just let it happen when you knew about this. Boss, this is Gunn. Yeah, I got it. You should have stopped them. So as soon as his phone rings, Charles wakes up. Okay, so they might have even something on the phone that as soon as that buzzes, the other person goes off. But it seems very, or maybe it prioritized Charles Choi being contacted rather than DG, because DG can just get away with whatever, but Charles Choi is the one that everybody has their eyes on. So we'll see. What should we do? The filming set, there's no time. James Lee only starts talking after Gunn hangs up on Charles Choi with an obvious click for the reader. But then, does he hear that straight away? Okay. That's a nice theory, but in chapter 310, PTJ showed them both awake at the same time in the same room. No, he didn't. Okay, Charles is probably asleep because there's another guy there asleep as well. And James Lee is awake working with, what's his name, with Eugene. And then you have our boy Goo standing over them. So Yeah, Charles Choi is probably asleep here because there's a person next to him that's also asleep. James Lee's child. Okay. In this chapter, Goose speaks only to Charles Choi first. James Lee is here, but his face is hidden. We already know, thanks to the previous chapters, that Charles James is able to sleep on the spot even while sitting. Once Goose starts talking to James rather than Charles, however, okay, so he meant Charles is awake and James is asleep, and then they switch. Once Goose starts talking to James rather than Charles Choi, then Charles, however, there's a big close up on Latter's face, and his mouth closes, and he's like, "Yeah, okay." PTJ showing that he's fallen asleep in order to switch bodies. Okay. Only from there do we see James Lee's face. The next word of James Lee are, "Hey, Goo, didn't see you there," implying that James had his eyes closed. That's interesting. Yeah, that's why he didn't say hi, because obviously Goo pulls up and talks to Charles. Okay, this is really interesting. And it also kind of makes sense because, you know, he kind of uses James Lee as the body to go get rid of all his problems almost. You know what I'm saying? And to kind of put himself out of the equation. And it's guaranteed because he knows if James Lee does it, he knows he did it. In chapter 428, when Gunn is about to fight James Lee, he receives a call from Crystal. She tells him that Charles wants him to come back. Gunn is confused and asks why she's delivering the message in his place. Wait a minute. That's, oh my God. Wait. Yeah, because obviously Charles is asleep because he's about to fight James Lee right there and then. And obviously, Charles ain't want that to happen. Charles ain't want that to happen, bro. Gunn was ready, bro. Gunn was ready for the smoke. Holy, okay. Because he could potentially damage one of his prized possessions, which, you know, both of them are his prized possessions, James Lee and Gunn. Gunn is confused and asks why is she delivering a message in his place. She answers that, according to Charles, her father, Gunn wasn't picking up his calls, which doesn't make sense. Because why would Charles think that Crystal has more chance to reach Gunn than himself? Gunn is Charles' right-hand man and loyal bodyguard. There was no way that he would miss his calls in any situation. I mean, he was about to fight the legend James Lee, and yet he answered Crystal's phone call immediately. So that is 100% true. Ooh, okay, I'm liking this. This theory is heating up, man. This theory is heating up. I don't know if I ever talked about something like this. I can't remember. I've made so many Lookism videos. I can't remember. But this guy is cooking, man. Yo, shout out to our Lookism M comic. You know what I'm saying? Lost from Light, man. You cooking right now. The truth is that Charles never called Gunn to begin with. This whole mini arc was just Charles' plan to earn Eugene's trust and infiltrate workers as James Lee. Yeah, that makes sense because that's what he does. I think he uses James Lee to infiltrate. Again, if you look at the Goo and Gunn conversation in the bathtub from way back, that's also a similar situation where he acts as if, oh, Charles is also his enemy so that you trust him. And because they're two different people, to you seemingly, it makes it look like, yo, I trust this guy, but I don't trust Charles. But then he stabs you in the back because he is Charles. Ooh, okay. Okay, in order to understand this properly, I advise you to reread the Defeating Big Deal mini arc, chapter 410, 418, the events. Johan is late to bring Eugene to Charles. Charles expected him to fail. Charles sends Gunn as pawn in order to scare Eugene and make him feel a sense of urgency. Wait, Johan is late to bring Eugene. Okay, Charles sends Gunn as a pawn in order to scare Eugene and make him feel a sense of urgency. To fool your enemies, you must first fool your allies or something. Okay. Gunn is too strong and negs everybody. The only person who potentially saved the day for the workers is James Lee. Oh, that's smart. Okay. You send somebody powerful to crush them, and then you send a counter to help. And that counter then is like a Trojan horse because he comes as a gift. Like, I'm against Charles, so I'm going to fight Gunn for you guys. Ooh, James Lee appears at the most convenient time to stop Gunn. He knows that he only needs to protect Eugene till daybreak. Remember that Eugene was waiting for the police forces to be there at 6 a.m. and was always looking at his watch. Gunn is too strong, and even if he could beat him, fighting him would disturb his plan, so Charles planned the phone call. Eugene is too grateful towards James to realize he's getting played. Moreover, he doesn't know about the two bodies. Workers are saved by James. The latter manages to get Eugene's trust and successfully infiltrate the workers. And this is how he's going to use them to defeat the workers, because I think Eugene is the one that's going to die. They say somebody important is going to die. It's probably going to be Eugene, because if you think about it now, sensational theory, by the way, if you think about it now, right, if we you know, we go through all this hurrah, you know what I'm saying, if we think about it, you know, when they're going to be fighting Gunn, because we know they're going to be fighting Gunn, they're going to jump Gunn. Gunn is going to be defeating a lot of them, and Gunn is probably going to be tired, and then it's going to be Gunn versus James Lee. and then James Lee would turn around and probably stab Eugene in the back and kill Eugene right there and then. And Gunn will probably know what's happening potentially, um, to a degree. I don't think he knows about the two bodies. But again, there's something about Gunn as well, because he decided to side with Charles Choi over Gu. And I'm gonna make a video on that at some point very shortly, maybe tomorrow. Because I think that's an interesting thing there, because I think Gunn and Gu are such a tandem, and Gunn even apologized to Gu, like almost like I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't you that asked me, and I wouldn't even drink if anybody else asked me, but I already shared my cup with somebody else, and that's with Charles Choi. And obviously he's like a samurai kind of guy, well, Yakuza, whatever. He's you know, he's all about his word, so he obviously gave Charles Choi his word before he met Gu, and thus decides to stick with him to the end. But we shall see. Maybe those spies around and Gunn and Gu spoke secretly in their own word, and they're going to betray Charles Choi. But we're going to see. Charles Choi right now is playing this game like chess, man, like 5D chess, bro. He cooking. Okay. I like this theory right now. I'm loving it. Okay, what changed the plan? You're doing nothing right now. And maybe perhaps he's always had the two bodies, and while he was with Garyon Kim, you know, he probably was learning and figuring out the best way, you know, the weaknesses of Garyon Kim, and he probably always intended to betray him in order to go into politics. What's changed the plan? You're doing nothing right now. He missed his chance to capture Eugene, like Gunn said. So why would, excuse me, Charles be so calm regardless, if not because he has everything under control? Right now, what you say is correct. Okay. And Gunn is questioning him, because Gunn is like, what are we doing here? Think it's too far-fetched, but Daniel did something similar to infiltrate the second affiliates. It's just that Charles is even more strategic and smart about it. Yeah, that is true. Charles Choi and James Lee have too much in common. I think I'm really getting old too. He's just too old. Yeah, the mannerisms, the smile, the lollipop, when James Lee eats the lollipop is the same as Elite, which is Charles Choi when he was younger, eating the lollipop. I think we're going to get that picture somewhere at some point. James Lee, like Charles Choi, excels at everything. They're both extremely talented, invisible. And remember, James Lee was a fake synonym created by Charles Choi. And we didn't know why. We thought initially it might have been Daniel, but it's not. Okay, they're both extremely talented, invisible attacks users. They're both smart and alike in their demeanor. And we know Charles himself is super strong. As Elite, he's super strong anyway. So if James Lee has the perfect body, on top of that, he's freaking OP, bro. Like, what? They're both smart, and okay, which isn't surprising after all. Charles Choi's pseudonym Elite is just that, elite, none. A noun, a group of a person that is superior in terms of ability or qualities to the rest of a group or society. He might just be built like those. They both have this weird habit of taking other people's body parts, because Charles Choi lost an arm. That's actually true. I think since Charles Choi lost an arm, he started taking other people's body parts, or something like that. I don't know. You heard about the story, didn't you? For the sake of my plan, I took the king's bodies. Chairman of HNN Group, Charles Choi. The whole thing about taking body parts is most likely related to the creation of second bodies. We know that Charles was responsible for them. So why would James Lee call this his plan? Oh, maybe they take like the best bits of somebody's power, right? Like Aslan's fist, you know, your man's legs, all of these bits, and then they put it together and create a body, a second body that has the muscle memories of the previous person. That's probably what's happening, and that's why they went fighting for all the Generation Kings in order to take the body parts and create a monstrosity, which is probably Daniel. I think the new Daniel body is supposed to be Charles Choi's future body, or like even more perfect body, or a third body. Maybe he was trying to get a third body for himself and try to switch between three people so that he can even have more control. But we're gonna see. You know what I'm saying? James rarely uses his hands when he fights. Even when he does, he seems to favor his right arm. Yeah, as if he's one-armed, because he's so used to, you know, having one arm as Charles Choi. His other arm is always pocketed. He barely uses it. Perhaps because as Charles Choi, he's used to only depend on it, which is actually true. It's the same arm. You know, so it doesn't seem like a coincidence. Even the stance is the exact same. It just seems that, you know, Charles Choi would have his hand in his pocket if not for you know, if not for him not having an arm. And also, if you think about it, even the lollipop scenes, like he always fights kind of one armed, like that's his style, right? Um, and then here, is it a coincidence that Charles used a similar trick as Daniel when the latter fought James Lee 10 chapters prior? And the next panel, Charles Choi says the foot is essential. If Charles knows how important the foot is in a fight, why would he get tricked by Daniel as James Lee? I don't think he did. He allowed them to win again for that false hope. Let's not forget that Charles Choi is strong, old, arrogant, and power hungry. Can you imagine how it would feel for him to be young again? My guess is that Charles as James Lee is less tactical and cautious. Okay, wait, man, how do I zoom in, bro? Like this is okay. I should have just done this from the start. I'm so sorry, guys. My guess is that Charles as James Lee is less tactical and cautious because he simply does feel the need to, as an old guy. But as a young guy, he just so much superior. Is like whatever. Okay, that's a good interpretation. But I also think he could have just done it on purpose. But James Lee and Charles Shaw don't fight the same way at all. Yes, because Charles Shaw is old. I'm not how I used to be. I haven't fought like this in such a long time. I'm not how I used to be. Yeah, I think he doesn't fight as Charles Shaw as much. Because he's just not as flexible. Do not forget that Elite was an invisible attack user. If so, then why didn't he use it against Jisung? My guess is that he cannot because of his age. He's not as fast as he used to, and so he can no longer use IA or invisible attacks in his original body. As James Lee, however, he can fight the same way as he did in his prime. Like, he probably is trying to do it, but he just doesn't have the damn, body to do it anymore. For those that remember my previous post almost a year ago, I had already made the not so bold guess that James Charles was using Daniel in order to get information about his enemies. Okay, yeah, I think that makes sense. The latest chapter almost confirmed that theory. Daniel told James Lee about Jin Young in the evening, and at night Charles Shaw was already at the Workers' First Affiliate. And I think that's probably the strongest solid evidence right there, because he was there hella quick. And how would he find out about this shit? You know what I'm saying? And he finds out because he made sure that Daniel trusts James Lee, because James Lee knows about the two bodies. And James Lee convinced Daniel that he's against Mr. Choi, and then Mr. Choi is using that advantage to gain information on everybody. But I think Daniel's going to figure this out. I think Eugene, especially because he's very, very smart. I think Daniel and Eugene are going to figure this out eventually at some point, because even Eugene was kind of questioning certain things. So we're gonna see this play out really, really well. I'm really excited about this. It's written, like, surprisingly written quite smartly. Lookism, not surprisingly, but like I really like Lookism. Moreover, James Lee's timing is too perfect. As soon as Eugene finds himself cornered into an uncomfortable situation, James shows up convenient, compromising evidence against Charles Choi. Like, yeah, that is true, because that's the best way to utilize utilize himself as a pawn, is by giving information that he knows he can kind of squirm around, but it also puts him in like a iffy situation. You may call him a fool, but Eugene has no reason to doubt James Lee. He doesn't know about the second bodies, and James Lee appears to be effectively working against Charles Choi even after earning his trust. Moreover, he thinks that James resents Charles for blackmailing him, which is what he used there. He says that, oh, he killed Garyon Kim, or me and him killed Garyon Kim, and he uses that against me in order to prevent me from talking, and that's why I've been with him all these years, because I had no way out. Very smart, very smart. And that's not all. The fact that both James Lee and Charles Choi berated Daniel about his use of the second body has a lot of implications as well. Yeah, because like, your gift, you're wasting it. After all, Charles probably managed to rise so high in the social ladder by properly using the second body, something Daniel has proved incapable of so far. Is that all? Convenience store? Yeah, so they're both disappointed, as if they both know about the bodies. Because here, James Lee shouldn't have known about Daniel like that. And then he goes, is that all? A convenience store? That's all you can achieve with the two bodies? And he's annoyed. Same thing as Charles Choi here. Is like, you fucking wasting this beautiful body I created. I can't just sit back and watch anymore. You trash. He's done nothing for this time. What did he say? And that dialogue makes no sense, because James Lee doesn't know this boy. So why are you saying that? And he's like, he's done nothing for this time. Like, he's like, all this time this dude has been doing nothing. Like, he's waste. Which is crazy. And he might have even gave Daniel that body on purpose, but we gonna see, because he obviously has some relation to him. This is so intriguing. This is, bro, I believe your theory, bro. I'm with you on this, bro. I think it's 100% true, bro. James Charles' next victim will probably be Lightning Choi, but there are still a lot of questions left unanswered. Where did the second bodies come from? Why did Charles tell Daniel to surpass James Lee? Because I think he wants that body. he wants Daniel's body. I think he created an even better body, and he wants Daniel to master from. But he doesn't obviously want to go and try to master another body when he has one that's mastered. He wants one that's improved, and then maybe take it upon himself, or like the way he has. Crystal has a second body, which already basically proves that, you know, Charles Choi definitely knows about the two bodies and gave his daughter one as well. Will Charles eventually discard his old original body? What were Jake's brother's role in all this? Who actually killed Gary Young and why? Yeah, yeah. This is so interesting. You cooked, bro. Let me see the comments. What are the comments saying? Because I think he absolutely cooked. Okay, something which I would like to add is how about why wouldn't Eugene or Tom Lee notice the three-way conversation between James Lee, Charles, and Eugene, let's say? Which sure, it would seem difficult to make it natural when one seems to be asleep and another awake as soon as one talks, switching back and forth. But it doesn't matter if it appears natural or not, because you would have to come to some ridiculous threads of logic to come up with the idea that they are the same person with the double body shenanigans just from that lead. Absolutely. Sure, Eugene is a genius, but even when he already suspected something supernatural with Daniel 2A, to the point that he kidnapped Daniel to perform surgery onto his body with June Young, applied a truth serum, and literally had the words spoken straight to him, Eugene still could not believe it. It was simply that unbelievable, which is true. Again, though, in a world where there's not superpowers as far as we know, the people are super strong, but they're people. You get me? So to have something like this happen just seems completely left field. And the secret of two bodies is, man, it might be, I'm not gonna say it's like as coveted as the One Piece, like, but damn, bro, it's up there, bro. Like, what's going on? And only lead Eugene would have of James Lee and Charles being the same person is just them supposedly interacting unnaturally in the same room. Having a second body in real life is as ridiculous as it sounds in the world of Lookism. It would only be obvious if you actually knew second body shenanigans existed in the first place. Exactly. And then PT Heim goes, I agree with what you said. I'm just going to add a few things. Jiho came up with that conclusion about that Daniels, so it wouldn't be that absurd if Eugene got aware of that. Eugene doesn't know about the double bodies since Jun Young blocked the speaker when Daniel said that. That is true. That is actually true, because yeah, Jiho did come up with that shit, bro. You know what I'm saying? Shout out Jiho, bro. Exactly. I remember someone asking about it in a previous post, and my reasoning was the same as yours. For the reader, it might look like the characters are clueless when there's so many clues. But would any of us, IRL, even consider the existence of two bodies in the same situation? We would not. For Eugene and other characters, this isn't even a possibility. It's just too nonsensical. They cooking over here, but I like this comment section. Exactly. Anyone who thinks that they would notice is clearly being illogical. Even if it's even more realistic than the whole Clark Kent and Superman. The idea that this nerdy looking slouched and spectacled man from down south is the symbol of justice is just beyond the realm of rational thinking. It's the same reason why many serial killers and criminals were able to live ordinary, unassuming lives while committing no crimes, because they seem, you know, weak and meek and yada yada yada. And also I think the age disparity makes it even more unbelievable, because the age difference is way too high. He must have come upon this body late enough, because they didn't kill Gary Young Kim until late enough. So this is really, really interesting. I don't know how he came about it. Maybe it has something to do with Gary Young Kim, and maybe he's James Lee body. I don't know. So many theories. Okay, I agree with all of your statements except for one thing. James' dialogue in chapter 310 was not, hey Gu, didn't see you there. At least according to the Korean readers. That was a mistranslation. What James actually said apparently was somewhere along the lines of, you better show some more respect to me, Gu. This doesn't take away from your theory. I just wanted to add that. Okay. But Gu doesn't show respect to nobody, bro. You know what I'm saying? That's cool. That's fair enough. Yeah, because I feel like, yeah, that's kind of a rookie mistake if he did say that. Like, why would he, you know what I'm saying? Are you sure? Because Mr. Lee seems to be fast asleep right after he came in. I was under the impression that he was speaking about Tom Lee rather than James, since the former was laying next to Charles. Yeah. Okay. Fuck, man. Now I'm starting to hop on James Lee being Charles purely because the foreshadowing would be some of the greatest I've ever seen. No, the foreshadowing is great. This fits very nice. It's like reading spoilers. What do you think about the possibility that Daniel's second body is him from the future? I think there's somehow a link between Jin Young and Daniel's second body. The fact that Daniel looks more and more like both his second body and Jin Young is just a matter of genes, family. The fact that the second body is perfect makes me think that it cannot be achieved naturally, even for Daniel, but he might end up being very similar. The ellipsis strengthened the theory. Yeah. Interaction involving James Lee and Charles never elsewhere. In case I forgot something. Okay, let me see his first post about this. Most controversial post ever. James Lee's Charles Choi. James Lee versus UI Daniel is essentially Elite versus Jin Young Park. Young Kim is the strongest in the verse. Whoo! Who should I make a part 2? I feel like this video has been very long. Should I make a part 2 or should I keep going? This video has been, let me see how long this video has been. 26 minutes. Oh my god. Okay, we might blow this up. So we gonna keep going. We gonna keep going. This gonna be the longest video in the channel. We gonna keep going, baby. And yo, I gotta thank Lost from Light, bro, or Lookism M comic. Please go follow that person, bro. Go blow up the goddamn Reddit, man. They cooking, bro. They cooking, bro. So, oh my god, bro. Damn. Ooh. Okay. Okay. All right. To be honest, it seems ridiculous, but let me explain. It would make sense for James. Whoa. Let me zoom in, bro. What am I doing? Let me zoom in, bro. Okay. It makes sense for James Lee to be Elite's second body. They just have too many things in common. The lollipop right here, hand in the pocket, similar standing, and I think that's probably why he does the colored hair and shit to seem more different. You know what I'm saying? To give the allure of like we're not the same person. But the mannerisms, bro, they just have too many things in common. From the lollipop, the vibe, and even the intelligence. What if there's actually two perfect bodies? One designed for after Jin Young, but the latter being unable or not wanting to use it, his son inherited it. And one designed for or after Elite. Okay, Daniel's perfect body looks like Jin Young and have all the past experiences that an experimented copycat would have mastered. And the other second body, James Lee, would literally be used by Elite directly. Okay. Oh, maybe they worked on this together. And that's probably why Jin Young is like gone crazy. Because James Lee or Charles Choi betrayed him when they did that. He might have even allowed him to make the second body and then simply fucked up Jin Young Park and escaped with both bodies. I don't know, but we gonna see. We gonna read this theory because this guy is cooking. Moreover, Elite was the brain of the Gary Young Fist gang. It would make sense for him to be such a genius and win so many trophies while in his younger body, especially if he's the one who found a way to get a second body. James Lee and Elite are both so aloof, they both act like a wise, old, distant man. Okay. James Lee didn't betray Charles Choi. He's literally Charles who, seeing that Johan failed to bring Eugene, is trying to infiltrate workers the same way Daniel did by using his own second body. Do you think it was coincidence for them to say the same thing here? Okay. Participant number 2, Daniel. The plan to overturn the workers from the... Yeah. I remember this plan. Have a look, guys. Okay, the only 2 times we saw them together, Charles' eyes could either not be seen or were closed. Okay. In this panel, Crystal calls gun to prevent the fight. James Lee person at the moment. Yeah, we read this part. That was a clean hit. DG, surpass. Okay, big brother vibes. More like proud uncle. Surpass DG equals surpass me. And he praised Daniel when the latter proved to be able to do so. That was a clean hit. Like he's proud of him. Because maybe he regrets. I don't know. Maybe him and Jin Young had this plan all along. I don't know. It's really interesting to figure out the dynamics between these people. Okay, let's go. No wonder he's so casual and patronizing when dealing with the first gen kings. He's older and more experienced than them. He's generation 0. It is also why he told Gu 2 times already to use honorifics since he's older. Yeah, he's always like, show me some more respect. But Gu doesn't give a shit. He probably wanted Gu out at some point as well because of, you know, Gu's potential chaosness. You know what I'm saying? James Lee here said, my plan. Okay. You heard about the story, didn't you? For the sake of my plan, I took the king's bodies. James Lee said my plan. It would make sense if he's Charles Choi using his second body to get things done. His former body being both too old and too important considering his position. Okay? The reason why James Lee Elite holds the mental aspect of fighting in such high regard is because the only man who managed to beat him was Garyong, someone whose real strength lied in his unwavering heart. Okay. Your self-belief makes you strong. Basically, I believe that Garyong's strength came from the fact that he was an unbelievably strong street fighter with more heart, passion, and belief than anyone. The fact that he did politics for the rest of his life despite losing every time. The fact that he created a gang for a greater goal. His whole vibe and the person, Kim Do-hun, he's inspired from. Okay. You can see here how much respect Elite had for Garyong. From the start, the one that fit the position of Seoul's king was the one with the legend's blood flowing in them. Garyong Kim had guts. But he had to betray him in order for himself to reach the top. This is so intriguing. They're both the only characters whose hairs are of 2 colors. Okay, that's a little detail, but I like it. Okay, as many would have already know about the arguments supporting this theory, which are in PTJ Entertainment arc, DG, Gunn, and Crystal in one room, where Gunn calls Charles Choi. Throughout the call, DG sleeping. As Charles hang up, DG suddenly wakes up and talk. In the same arc, when DG appears, Charles' eyes are closed. Again, in the meeting of the 10 geniuses, Charles' eyes aren't shown. The pose after they beat someone in a fight, the same with that lollipop. Yeah, DG knows everything Charles knows. Charles, when meeting Daniel, original body, for the first time, he symbolically tells Daniel that he possesses the same thing as him, by which he rose up in the world, like how Daniel used perfect body to rise up in the world in those arcs. Charles indicates that. That is a fact. The new chapters further supports his theory. When James appears in a fight with Big Deal hunting arc, Crystal's the one calling Gunn. Yeah, they reveal the child photo is Crystal, removing the speculation of James being Charles' son shown in the photo. DG revealed that the child in the photo is Crystal, removing the speculation of James being Charles' son in the photo. Also, I guess Jin Young is the weakness of Charles Choi, which Eugene has. Okay, that is a weakness. And also, DG is a weakness if people find out. In the body of DG, Charles is actually trying to remove the weakness. That's why he asked Daniel to find the guy. Jin Young Park is the only guy except Charles, James, and Daniel to know about the two bodies. Also, Tom Lee could have just told Charles about Jin Young being with workers, but instead, he completely came on side of workers. Probably something happened between Elite and Jin Young that Tom just doesn't want them to meet again, and is most probably related to Gar Young Kim's death. Okay, if this theory is true, then James Lee versus UI Daniels, okay, likewise Gunn versus Gu versus UI Daniel James Lee is essentially Gunn Gu versus Jin Young Elite. Therefore, Gar Young being stronger than both Elite and Jin Young, he was in fact the strongest in the verse. Woo! Yo, my J Kim stocks are just shooting up to the roof because I've been telling people, and now we know Vin Jin's dad was near the same level or on the same plateau as Gar Young Kim. So I've been cooking. I said Vin Jin is OP way back when I made a video about him and Mary Kim. I said Jake Kim is super important, and boom, I've been cooking, guys. I've been cooking for years, despite not coming up with this theory, man. Okay, if it happened in real life, would you really consider that a person has two bodies? Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, let's go. I want to kind of read. Let me see. What's part 2 of this shit? I'm gonna just go back. Oh yeah, right here. Okay. Let me see. Let me see what this guy says. This feels like a diversion for something else. PTJ has fooled us beforehand with James Lee equals Big Daniel carrying into drama even, so I'm not so inclined to believe in this. It's not that the possibility of Charles and James is low with the evidence, such as James obviously knowing There's still the mystery of Crystal's other body, how it's implied that her fat one is in fact not her second body, and the mystery of the other consciousness. Moreover, both Daniel's and Crystal's second body resemble the OG physically. Okay. Regards to the first showing Charles, Choi, and James Lee in the same room. Honestly, the emphasis has been put on those small panels showing one stop talking. You did miss, however, another huge point for the theory is that Jin Young's reaction to Daniel having two bodies. A very peculiar reaction, as he says, it happened to you too. Jin Young is almost certainly referring to Charles here. Okay, yeah. I would have to be the only big problem for me with this theory would be the age difference between the characters, because the other characters with second bodies would always have similar ages to them. But what if his second body wasn't a similar age in the first place? Like the first example, Daniel, his second body is much more developed than Daniel himself. But before, we all thought at some point that Daniel's second body was Daniel perfected, having all martial arts. But we know about Daniel's body, but Daniel himself could be a special case. Okay, it's too long. All right, guys, that's the video. I believe his theory. I think it is probably the true best theory about it. We still need to find somebody that has a great theory about how the second body works and how it came about in the first place. I don't know how much longer this story is going to go on for, but I think there's another 10 years left of details to, if One Piece can run for 25 years when he initially planned for it to run for 3 years, whatever, I think Lookism has a long ass time to go, and PTJ has so many stories going around that's happening as well. So yeah, I'm very interested to know what you guys think about this theory. Do you guys believe it? Do you guys not? And if you do, why? If you don't, why not? I am out. Subscribe, leave a like. It was a long ass video, and go check out that damn well, I'm actually gonna link that theory in the description. Go check it out. All right, I'm out.